anybody there?
All right, welcome back to this week's edition of So You Want to Be in IT. We are a podcast aimed at those starting out their journey in the vast world of IT. We talk navigating the IT world as a beginner, right? From everything, how to climb the ladder, to break in, how to navigate politics, in the office, management, certs, anything, and pretty much everything in between. This is episode 7. So we are 7 episodes deep already, and we are going to flip the script a little bit this week because Dean had an issue and he's not going to be able to join us tonight. So I recruited my friend and colleague, Heidi. So, hi, Heidi. How are you?
Hello. Good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. So Heidi is a lot of things at my job. So she is she is the chief cook and bottle washer, amongst other things, at our job. We work at Rentokil, as I've mentioned previously. And Heidi, I want to get your title right. You are senior manager of finance applications. Is that right?
Yes. Currently, it's Senior Applications Manager of Corporate Functions. So what falls under that is finance, accounting, HR, and distribution applications.
There you go. A mouthful in itself. I like it. Yeah, so Heidi is the co-host for this week. I reached out to her 2 months ago, Heidi,
Yes.
and basically said, hey, let's do this. And you were like, okay, cool. So here we are. Heidi, again, is senior manager of pretty much everything corporate resource. So Heidi, can you just give us a little bit of what that actually entails and sort of what you're responsible for, and then we'll kind of pick that apart.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I say the application support, it is the application. So it's not the network side. It's not the server side. It's not the database side. Although the applications we support, we do need to have that expertise. Is very helpful. But really, it's, what falls in our corporate Rentokil office for applications for finance and accounting. So, we use Dynamics Nav as an ERP system, and we have several instances of that. We use it for accounting and finance for corporate. We use it for our distribution target product, specialty products, and we also use it for our Lake Solitude. So we do have 3 separate instances of Navision. So that is an ERP system that my team supports. Along with that, we have cash allocation tools, check scanning tools to make it easier and more efficient for our accounts receivable team. We have something called Medius, which integrates with our ERP system for accounting, which helps with vendor invoicing and making that more efficient for accounts payable. We support AltiPro alongside, our human resources, a team for the whole employee source for, time and materials, employee data, onboarding, and they continue to add to what we're doing with that software, adding goals, performance reviews. So there's a one-stop shop for employees. The distribution side, there's a distribution ERP, there's an e-commerce, there's a portal for the salespeople to order online instead of directly in the application. So that is all encompassing anything that falls under an applications or distribution or HR as a software. That's what we support. So we are BAU, which is business as usual. In IT, we love our 3-letter acronyms. And although I'm saying business as usual, what's coming into our service desk? We use ServiceNow for our incident management, for our problems management, for change management. So what comes in there day to day? Hey, I can't do this in an application. Hey, I'm getting this error. Hey, I need setup. I don't have this permission. Whatever it entails, that gets directed through the service desk, then up to level 2 support, which we are considered. But on top of BAU, there's constantly new projects, new development requests, upgrades to the software. We support that as well. We support the implementations, the configuration and setup of the software, the administration. So all of that is sort of our day-to-day software support.
Look at that. See, I should have you guys on more often because I don't really know what everyone else does as far as departments. So this is educational for me because, Heidi, I know, we're part of a large organization,
Yes.
both here in North America and globally. But it's sort of hard to wrap your head around other departments and sort of what they do and how they fit into your day-to-day puzzle, right? So, from a network perspective, right, we're the plumbing, right? We're the underneath. And so if you can't get from point A to point B, your application is pretty much useless.
Absolutely.
So it's hard to get my head wrapped around what other people do sort of, above me in the stack, right? So, as you move closer to the user, I'm down and dirty into the sewers sort of thing, making sure the plumbing is correct. It's always nice to have a refresh as far as, okay, look, this team is responsible for this. This is how this cookie cutter piece fits into here. And it's nice to have, it eventually then makes a big picture, right?
Yes.
So you're like, oh, okay, there's a purpose to all this madness. It's not just, people pushing buttons and, left hand doesn't know what right hand's doing. So that's always nice to have a full picture.
It's true. I mean, with the size corporation we work for, I think some of that gets lost. Our organization is so large. We keep having new people and it's just like, what does this team do? And, I've experienced both. So I've worked for a smaller family owned company versus, corporate Rentokil. And there are pros and cons to both, but it is also, hey, I know I'm having this problem. Who do I go to sometimes? And sometimes I reach out to a group of you and be like, is this networking? Is it hosting? So I'm not, taking up 5 people's time, just getting your input and be like, this is the direction you need to go.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And, like we said, with the size, it can kind of get a little loosey-goosey, if you will, trying to find the right people in the right space to kind of fix your issues. I think it's always good to have a larger discussion to kind of fit those jigsaw puzzle pieces together and say, okay, yeah, there's a light at the end of this tunnel. I see the big picture and not just my small percentage of my day to day or my world.
Absolutely.
That's important. And I think that's important for the beginner piece of it too, right? Because coming into a large organization, if you're a help desk guy or if you're a application developer or automation is big now, right? So especially on the network side, automation and dev and all those tools, Python and Chef and all those crazy stuff, which is his own discussion in itself. It can be daunting, right? It can be daunting to a new guy or to like you said, like if you're coming from a small mom and pop and all of a sudden you're thrown into a company that has, what do we have? Like 8,000 people North America wise, something in there. So it's like, you're going from a couple hundred people to all of a sudden 8,000. That's a major mind shift that a lot of people, I don't want to say they can't make the jump, but that's a shock and awe to their system to be like, okay, now I'm responsible for, 8,000 plus people, where before it was Mary's, tax service and they had like 6 people.
Yeah. I mean, and there's definitely pros and cons, I think, to both, your smaller companies versus corporations. Yeah. I mean, I've lived both and, there's definitely some pluses to the $60 million company versus the $1.5 billion company.
Yeah, agreed. I'm just trying to figure out, or I should say, there's a fine line between, taking the bull by the horns and thinking, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm mentally prepared to support these many people versus, oh man, what did I really agree to, sort of thing. And like you almost had that like deer in the headlight looks. Like you walk in day one and you're like, oh man, this is their lunchroom is bigger than my whole previous office. Like what's happening here?
Definitely. And since we do work at home at the moment, I do apologize. I have a little dog barking in the background.
It's fine. We're good. We're dog friendly people here.
It's good.
It's all good. I have 2 downstairs, and I'm surprised that are not barking their heads off because a sketchy bag rolls across the front sidewalk, and they have to let them know about it. But anyway, so and I want to bring this up too. So your title is manager. So does that mean so some titles comes with managing actual people, or just, manager in a sense of you own a service or you manage a service.
Yeah.
So you have a couple people under you, right?
Correct. I have, including myself, it's a team of 6. So there's 3 of us that support the distribution applications. There's 3 of us that support the accounting, finance, and HR applications. So, I do the day-to-day management, like the one-on-one meetings with my team, the team meetings. So also get involved in making sure everyone has their goals, has their performance reviews, has the training they need, or, suggested training, both mandatory company-wide and, what helps them grow and develop. So I do have that responsibility as well.
Perfect. So do you find managing, say this, I don't want to say carefully, that's not the right word, but because not everyone is sort of cut out to manage people, or they think they are, but it's a harder complex for them because of their personality. Is it easier to manage people than a business service? Because I know there's a fine, weird line there that it's not cut out for everybody is what I'm trying to say.
Correct.
So, do you like that role of managing people? There's no right or wrong answer.
There isn't a right or wrong. And it's my passion. I keep getting, I don't say pushed in that direction, but, guided in that direction. I've had a lot of good feedback from, my employees and, ways I have helped them. And I always try to lead by example. So sometimes, it's hard being a manager because it's just like, well, I would have taken care of that 10 minutes ago where, and try and giving the team, that time to grab something. So I do like, just starting out with the service desk, I do like coaching. That's what we do with our end users when they need help or they need trained. I don't know how to do something, and you're coaching them and you're teaching them. So it's no different than supporting. It's different, but you're supporting an end user. You're doing the same thing. You're coaching and developing them so they can be efficient in the applications they use. And you're doing the same to, for your team. Hey, we have tools and we try and follow, the ITIL, and we have incident management. And what does that mean? And how often do you need to get back to somebody? We have change management. In this size corporation, you can't just make that change in production like we did in smaller companies.
No, oh my God, no. Oh my
God. There's rules, and they're good rules, and there's a reason they're in place. But it's making sure, hey, this is how you do changes. This is what we need to do. There's problem management. Hey, this incident's been open for 60 days because we have no fix for it. It's a bug. Let's move it to a problem and get that development and that bug fix done. So I do like that process and training that process. My passion, though, is hands-on all day long.
Yeah.
I am, in my applications, I love the configuration, the implementation, the support, the administration of it, trying to figure out something that went wrong or an error message and figuring it out. And, working with the employees and the end users to make them more efficient. And, I have people chat me, hey, I learned something new today. I remembered you told me to do this. And that's my passion of what I would love to do all day long.
No, I agree with that. And I think that is a special skill, I guess you want to call it today. People think managing people is easy. It's just like, hey, I cracked the whip, and or I say jump and people say how high, right? It's not technically like that. So
no,
you're not. You're not going to get very far with that mentality. No. People are going to check out on you pretty quick. And B, it's very short-sighted. You're going to have some decent turnover. You're just going to keep training people over and over again. Yeah. It's like, your retention is going to go, in the toilet. So, but I do think there is a special skill. Managing people is hard enough. Managing personalities, I think, is way different.
It's the personalities. Everyone, you can have a team. There's a team of 6. We all have different personalities. There's one person that is so me and works like me, and guess what? That's why I can take a day off. But there's other people that they talk differently to the business or end users. They have different personalities, and it's managing all of that, which is really difficult because you are who you are, and you need to be able to do your job and not constantly being, oh, that's not politically correct. This isn't politically correct. You need to be able to have conversations, and constantly, there's a ton of different projects and you work with different people. You could have these 5 people in one project and turn around tomorrow and have another 7 people you work with. And there's a dynamic to those teams that's constantly changing as well. So it's not even just managing people and their personalities. It's everybody day to day trying to do that in their daily business.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, and Dean and I have sort of talked about this in previous podcasts, but I think in today's world, today's company culture, and not everyone is the same, right? Each company has their own sort of culture and fit, but
Mm-hmm.
I think soft skills are just as important as actual technical skills, because you got to know how to talk to people, whether that's down to a user.
Yep.
And massaging them and letting, and kind of getting them to do what you want them to do. And we talked about this with Ben last week, because he's way closer to the user than you and I are in a lot of aspects. And then there's an art form into talking and playing and being a team player in both, like I said, down to the user and cross teams as well, right?
Yes,
so
definitely.
You and I work together on a couple different things, and and we sort of we seemingly get along, that kind of thing. But our paths don't cross all that often. It's one of those things where you have to know to your audience, or know what you're walking into as far as if you're going to deal with another team, and then B, finding a common ground and finding that happy medium where everyone's singing Kumbaya and petting unicorns, sort of thing. So.
Yeah, and to have taken advantage. Pluralsight is a training site that our company subscribed to starting last year, and there are a lot of soft skills on there. There's a lot of training around communication within IT, communicating with IT and the business. And on top of just those different dynamics of whether it's business users, but, even the business users, you get into a meeting and you have a full gamut of someone, you're going to visit them at their desk up to C-level executives all in the same meeting. And you also have, egos along the way, at different levels, not specific levels, but there's egos. Some people come and just be like, well, this is my baby. You can't touch that. You can't tell me what to do. And you have to always try and just, this is our end game. And what's the best way to get there?
I agree with that on the ego level. And again, Dean and I joke about it all the time that IT people, we generally, we have some sort of ego to us, right? We all like our ego stroked in some aspect of it, for better, for worse. I'm not pointing fingers, but yeah, I agree with that. I think there is a level of hey, and some ego to that. I did want to, that kind of jogged the memory here. To me personally, and I've been, again, I was like you, Heidi, small and large corporations, and by far this is the largest one that I've been a part of. I see this more with some of the smaller companies that I've been a part of. It's that mantra or that stigma of, well, this is the way we've always done it. I feel like that phrase is literally like a mindset killer. Because once you say, oh, well, that's the way we've always done it, that means there's no change there. There's no incentive to sort of turn that corner and say, okay, what else is out there that could work to our advantage, could make us work smarter and not harder. And I think people kind of fall into that, well, this is the way we've always done it. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way, or at least you're at least doing yourself a disservice by not taking a flyer on product X, because you're stuck in that, hey, we've always done it this way mentality. And
that mentality, I still hear it in meetings today, especially, we have so many projects and changes going on in the corporation.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And sometimes it's just being said, especially from business users, because they know what they need to do day to day. And even though it's not efficient, they make sure they're getting it done. So we try and make efficiencies for them, but until you have that training and everything's set up, you're not always going to get the buy-in, because that's not what they know. They know this application, they know it well, even though, hey, guess what? We just implemented that 4 years ago and you didn't used to use it. So it is a mindset and it is change. And the thing is, in today's world, it's technology, but it's affecting everybody in the company. It's just constantly changing. Like the technology era over the last 10 years has just drastically changed.
It's insane. I feel like I'm just getting onto something, and all of a sudden people are like, "Oh yeah, we're moving to this." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Wait a minute! I just got done reading the manual for product X.
It's true.
What the hell's going on here?" It's like it's so crazy. No, I agree with that, and like you said, Heidi, it's you sort of hear that today. And it's what they know, right? It's comfort,
yes,
right? So you don't grow inside your comfort zone.
Correct.
Like the only way you sort of expand your mind and expand, your way of thinking is get outside your comfort zone. And that goes for a lot of things, not just business related or professionally speaking. So I think there is a little bit of the mantra out there of, this is the only, this is what we know and this is the way we've always done it. I feel like that's a real like growth stunter as far as, what else could be out there.
Yes.
From a new set of eyes, right? Whether that's you're a beginner to your field or a beginner to a company, right? So you're just there. You don't be afraid to at least slap the flyer on the table and say, "Hey,
there's ideas.
There's ideas out here. This isn't, this isn't a complete vacuum. In a lot of aspects it may be, but it's worth your voice bringing to the table and saying, look, here's what we did at my place, and this really worked good here. Here are some cons. Here's what I would have done differently, XYZ. And you never know. It may take off, and the right people may say, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea. We should at least take a flyer on that and see what's out there." And if they end up not taking it or not going for it, fine. But at least you had say, at least you had say, in that particular process. And I think that goes a long way for A, your morale, and B, how you fit into company culture, because it shows that you're taking initiative. It shows that you're sort of coming in there and wanting to make an impact, within reason, right? Impact, and I say that.
But you're getting noticed. You're being a team player. You're
100%.
You're looking to make 100%. Efficiencies, and I mean, even just hey, this software, you used it before, you've implemented it before. Bring it to the table, because like in our world, there's so many new directions we're going, and we're really starting at, vetting vendors and different software. So there may be 5 software on the table for a new project, and we're going to pick one of those. We're going to meet with the vendors. We're going to look at what they have to offer, and we're going to pick what's best for, our size company and what, gaps we're trying to fill. So definitely if you're coming in and you've used something, bring it to the table, because it might be some more thing they're going to add or they've never heard of or looked at. And there's so many software that does the same thing. So you can't possibly know all of them. So whoever has any, knowledge, that's just knowledge is power. Bring it to the table.
Amen. No, I agree. I think it, from a beginner's standpoint or from a new person to a new environment, I think trying to get your voice heard and, hey, this may help here, throw it out there and, cast your line. The worst you do is you pull it back, right? You don't get a fish on it. You pull it back and you wait for your next opportunity to throw it in the river. So I think that's a good tip. Don't be afraid of, because it's a new surrounding to you, don't be afraid to, shoot your shot, so to speak, in that aspect. So, but I did want to circle back, because when I approached you a month or two ago about coming on and chatting, you did tell me something interesting that kind of stuck out to me. Dean and I are very heavy Cisco people or networking people.
Yes.
And you sort of started out in that world. I'm interested to hear about that.
I did. And I didn't start there. I went that direction. So, and I think this is just maybe helpful on, this is where I was as a beginner. I didn't start out in the IT world. I worked at the Pennsylvania Capitol for the Republican caucus. Whether you like me or don't like me, because I said Republican caucus, doesn't matter. But I was there for, right out of high school, started there when I was 17, learned a lot of lessons. But it's actually too where I got into wanting to get into IT. So there was IT back then, but as you know, almost 20 years ago, it was so different. So people would call and they wouldn't get a response or a timely response. And somehow I started becoming the person in my area that could figure out applications and how to use them and help people. And they all came to me and I loved it. So I was really, thinking about switching gears. So wasn't totally sure if it was right for me. So I just did a year program, a certificate program. It wasn't my bachelor or anything. But it had, back then your A plus, which is, tearing apart computers, putting them back together,
Sure.
Loved it. It had a networking aspect. It had a web design aspect. And I think at that time, something with Linux or Netgear, I forget, there was another course. It was way too long ago. But I really enjoyed it. And I took that course. And from there, I was still at the state capitol, but they moved me to a computer trainer, which I love to do. I loved creating documentation. I loved training the people because I really just, the aspect of why I got into it is because I can help someone learn something or, do something better. And shortly after that, I was done with that program is when I started at a smaller office supply company. It was a $60 million company. So there was probably 5 of us in IT altogether. And I started on the help desk. But because it was so small, you really get into doing everything. So I had the interest, not just, back then going from desk to desk helping people because we didn't have tools that you could just remote in. You physically went to people's desk, which was great on relationship building. Yeah. Right. And then I really got into, there was a great manager there. Great lesson he taught me, was getting the experience, but he's like, you need experience and you need education. That way, whatever employer is looking at you, one might want experience, one might education, one might want both. So it's really just sort of making myself marketable. So I was interested. And so I went and took some college courses for Cisco and got my CCNA. So I started certainly not in the depth that you're in, but just local area networks and wide area network. So configuring the Cisco routers for our company, and we only had like 5 other locations that we connected to, and then got into server buildings, what they called rack and stack back then, just racking all the servers, yep, building them up with all the applications, all the, operating systems. But being in that smaller company, I got to experience so much because then, it was the age of monitoring. So now we're getting these viruses. So then you put antivirus in, which is common today, it wasn't back then. And then you got right into the email monitoring and, content and what you're blocking. And I saw things that I can't ever unsee that people try to send in and out of the, your company network.
Yep. But been there.
Yeah. So I really, at that smaller company, and that's why I'm saying there's pros or cons. Like where I'm at now, there's a niche. I don't have time to do all that, or our company's too big. So in a smaller company, you don't become an expert in any one thing, but you get to get your hands in all of it. And, although I was in the Cisco and the server side of things and I really loved it, I started shifting and I'm like, why am I doing this? What makes this important? And I sort of switched gears over to the business application side, because then you're working with the business day to day. When this goes down on this day, it's a lot more of a problem than it is 2 weeks ago. And so like accounting and finance, perfect example, it's end of month. They need to close their books. If they have an error on the 15th of the month, it's going to be a lot less urgent than if it's the 30th of the month.
Right.
So it was I got on the business application side of things. I started understanding the importance of what everybody did and why. So I've sort of been stuck in that ever since.
And that was like 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, right. It was 2 weeks ago.
No, that's awesome. I think that's a cool story. I like that story where you kind of started and sort of how you branched out and sort of moved from one aspect, to another. And we talked about this with Ben last week, but, where you break in to a help desk or a service desk position doesn't mean you have to stay there forever.
No, absolutely not.
So, and some people do. Some people like the service desk and helping end users. And I know a lot of guys that are in that niche and just like to stay there or they move into management or team lead, sort of thing, but still in that help desk close to the user
Yes.
sort of feel to it. And I think that's important. I think you need those people. But, a lot of people move on from the help desk and find their niche, because I think help desk is a learning experience as much as it is as a job. And I'm stealing Dean's thunder from a previous episode here, but he sort of said the same thing. But you think you're going into a help desk and you're touching networking all day, or you think you want to go that avenue because of you heard somebody say XYZ, this is really cool, and you're like, oh yeah, I think that'd be cool, let me strive towards that. But then you get to the help desk and you're like, wow, VMware is awesome.
Yes.
I want to do that. Like there's such a mind shift, there's such a wide variety of things that you can touch, and what originally was your plan normally doesn't end up your end goal or your long-term plan.
Correct.
So it's an odd, sort of mind shift to be like, all right, well, I really like network, but I found VMware to be a lot more interesting and entertaining. So I'm gonna take a flyer on that and go down that road. So, it's happened to a lot of people, and listening to you, that sort of happened to you as well. You sort of found your calling as business applications, and here we are.
Yeah. And truly what you were saying about, change and people being in their comfort zone. The company I worked for, they had the green screen. They had the AS400 green screen running everything. And they truly had like 3 divisions. They had a furniture design division where we had designers, with AutoCAD that created, the office spaces as well as the software. So we had that. We had printing, copying, scanning. So the technology side of the division. And then we had truly the office supplies, the salespeople selling office supplies to, all of our customers. And then we had corporate, we had our warehouse and our shipping and our accounts payable, our accounts receivable, our controller. So we had that whole dynamic, in that green screen AS400, but everybody, it was out of life. And it's like, what do you want to do? And I was at that company. And it's sort of when I made the switch into the business applications, and every division had their say, and they wanted best of breed. They didn't want all in one.
Yep.
So, which there's pros and cons to that as well. So, we went from this one system to 3 systems, and 3 completely different systems. So, I supported all of those, but it's also where I got into Dynamics Nav. Because our office supply division went that direction, and I'm still have my hands in that today.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Yeah, so again, you're starting on a help desk, and we've talked about that before. You're going to have to find some sort of help desk role to sort of get your foot in the door. No one starts at the CIO level, sort of thing. As much as people think they can, right? Nobody starts there, right?
Correct.
Shout out to our CIO, Mike.
Yes.
But anyway. Yeah, there's a huge journey that comes and goes with that, and it's more of it's an experience as well as it is an everyday job, and sort of finding or navigating your way. So I would say embrace that journey, because it's your journey. It's not anyone else's, and there's no cookie cutter, one size fits all. No. Everyone has the same path sort of thing, or that would be super boring, right? So, make it your own, sort of, blaze your path to the, constraints that you're in, or, wherever your current day you're living, right? You're in the soup, I like to say, right? So you walk in the door, you smell the soup, and you're like, oh, that really smells good. And then like you're in the door like a half hour and you don't smell the soup anymore. Like it's one of those things. So it's like, you got to make your own choices and make your own path, sort of thing, but enjoy the path, enjoy the ride, because it is yours, and it builds character, it builds who you are, and sort of what kind of IT person that you're going to be later on, in life, whatever path you choose.
I used to be shy. Nobody believes that.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all.
That knows me.
That's a lie. And how dare you come on this podcast and lie to me, Heidi? That's unacceptable.
And I have to tell you, it was IT that changed me and my personality. I do swear, and I swear a lot, and it's the guys that I work with. And you said before we started this, how much of this is like, IT's more of a male-driven occupation. And that's who I work with a lot. And it's just like you're in your own IT department. You're not usually out in the middle of the business, and anything goes, anything flies. So yeah, I've learned my vocabulary. from
Is that what you call it, Heidi? Vocabulary?
From some of my coworkers. Well, like you said, know your audience.
Yeah, no, exactly. You have to. Yeah, that's half the battle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but let's talk about that with the idea of, obviously you're a female in a generally male-driven world, right? There's a huge push right now for it from a society perspective of getting more females into, I'll use the acronym STEM, jobs and things of that nature. So has there been any sort of hills or any sort of roadblocks that you've had in your career as far as, being the female and kicking the door down sort of thing?
I'm going to say no. And I think I was surprised when you said that when we started, because when I started 20 years ago, people said that to me, you're 1%er.
Right.
There's, not a lot of women in this field, especially when, I started taking the Cisco CCNA. There was no females in those classes. And then I also when I realized that was the path I wanted to take, and, I got the job on the service desk and in IT, I did go back. Like I said, I had that manager that's just like, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? And, it wasn't sort of acceptable to be like nothing, that wasn't the answer. And I did end up going back, at night. As I worked full time, I went back at night and I got my bachelor's degree over the next couple of years that it took me. And I truly did that too. Just, listening to my managers, like, you need to be marketable. You're not always going to be here. There's opportunities. And if you want that opportunity, you have to show that you can do it, that you did the work. And as far as roadblocks, if I had them, nothing stands out. My parents have taught me, if you want anything in life, you got to work for it.
Right.
And I'm not in the culture of I'm entitled. Just because I went to college, I'm entitled to walk into a company and make $80,000. It doesn't work that way. You have to do the work and you have to prove yourself, and you can't be lazy. I don't think I had roadblocks. I truly had a passion for what I was doing. I love to help people. In that smaller company, it was great because I got my hands in everything, but I couldn't be an expert in all of it. So I went a different direction to be that expert. But I just always proved myself that I could do the job. I always wanted to learn, hey, I don't know how to do that. Teach me. And I was big. And one thing I'm huge on, guess what? I might have done something, and even something I support day to day, and the error doesn't come up for another 6 months. I don't remember what I did.
Right.
Documentation. I am huge on documentation. One, because I can do documentation. I can give you step-by-steps. I can give you screenshots. I'm going to use it again, but I'm going to give it to the end user, and they're going to use it every time they need to. So as far as roadblocks, if I had them, they don't stand out. It was just, no matter what my field was, you got to work hard at it. Now, I'm going to say one of the drawbacks is potentially, I might have succeeded because I was always available. To the point, though, then you at this point in your life, it's just like you sort of gave up a work-life balance, but I got where I was because I did that.
Sure.
So I don't know. I'm just saying, work hard, take classes. It doesn't mean you have to have a bachelor's. I did classes like the certifications for CCNA. I did Microsoft certs. I did that on my own time. So I got different certifications. It was my choice to go back for my bachelor degree. So you have certifications, you have experience, you have education. So you can really, somebody looks at that, they know you have drive, they know you have the willingness to learn and, want to go in a direction. Because I can tell you, the 4 years of college, I couldn't work on any of the applications I work on today from those classes. Teach it.
Yeah.
That's not what they taught. Right. They taught, generality, networking, servers, database concepts, programming. But anything that I'm doing today, I didn't learn from theirs, but you have the ability to learn anything, implement anything, and just be the best at what you do.
Yeah, so I think you're spot on with, sort of having a goal or having small obtainable goals that you can sort of use or, equate to rungs on a ladder, right? So you're cert for, X, and you're cert for Y, and then, position X, position Y, and sort of going up that corporate ladder, as we like to say. But I think it's the idea of breaking them into smaller obtainable goals, and sort of, seeing where you land, right? It's not an all or nothing sort of thing. It's multiple pieces and trying to make that, 1,000-piece puzzle, if you will, and trying to make it work and what works for you. Because at the end of the day, it's got to pay your bills and you got to like what you're doing. Right?
Oh, so. Absolutely. And it's true. Like when you say small goals, and that's everything in life. People do the New Year's resolution and they fail because they have this one big goal that they want to obtain instead of smaller goals that you can meet along the way. And, I don't know if it was so much, a goal for me to say, hey, I want this title, I want this position. It was more, what am I interested in? Hey, I'd really like to try that out. And like I said, being in a smaller company, you really get your hands in so much. You don't become an expert in any one thing, but you get your hands in a lot to give you a direction that's helpful to go. You might have a niche that you like more. You might be doing something for a year and be like, just like you said, hey, there's VMware. There's constantly new technologies coming out. And being in IT today, you're going to come across those. And it's just like, hey, yeah, I want to be that Citrix administrator. I want to be that VMware administrator, and I think those opportunities come along. So it's almost just like, not, hey, this is my title I want, but I now have an interest in this. How can I get my hands in that? What's available? And it's even so much as, hey, what are you doing? Can you show me that? Because you know what somebody else does. And just to get that experience. And when there is, that time, and it's a lot easier when you are in the office, unlike today with COVID being at home, you hear people, you get to collaborate, and that's not quite your job, but it affects your job in some way. And if you just have that knowledge, it's so helpful in troubleshooting the whole picture. Just like, I'm not a network person, I'm not in hosting, but because of what I did in the past, I know when I'm having some problems in my applications, where to go or what direction to look for, even though other team members might not.
Yeah, you know what that looks like because you've been there previously. Yeah,
it helps. Gotcha. Yeah, it helps in me doing application support. Having that background completely helps in having that day-to-day knowledge.
I think that's a big thing, right? I think and we talk about. And I see this more in smaller companies or the smaller companies that I've worked for, but it's more of, hey, they require you to be a jack of all trades, master of none sort of thing. And it's like,
exactly,
at some point, like I've tried to be just a network guy, like throughout my career, because that's what I'm good at. And that's what or at least I'm good at faking it. Right. So, that's what I'm good at. That's sort of where my bread has been buttered. And Cisco and knowing Cisco has been very good to me over my career, that sort of thing. So, I've tried to be the network guy no matter where I've been, large or small, but there's a lot of places out there that basically that require you to be the jack of all trades, master of none. And it's very hard to sort of make that shift and be that guy because there's way too much out there so you can actually be effective at all of it.
It's true.
There's just no way. I couldn't even sort of fake that, to be honest with you. And I'm telling my future employers now I can't fake it. So just make me a network guy. You'll be much happier that way. But
I'll get it done. I get it done every day.
That's right. I'm in it to win it. No, so so I want to get your take on just a couple more things. I know we're sort of coming up on the hour and everyone's time is precious. But you said the COVID thing, right? Do you like being home versus in the office? Do you like it the other way around? Like what do you prefer there?
Well, I can tell you when we started, I don't know, a couple of years ago that we could work from home 2 days a week. We had to be in the office more than out. And to me, I mean, again, it was change. It was comfort zone. I was always in the office. What do you mean work from home? But I started doing it. And since I do have an hour commute each way, I did like the mix, let me work from home. You have the constant distractions in the office as well. You're in the middle of fixing something, you're concentrating, and someone's up at your desk. They need help. And even in today's world, they do that. They walk in, Heidi, I know you can help me. I need your help. So you have that. But I got used to working at home since I've been doing it a year. I'm efficient. I can do my job. I don't have the commute. Now, in place of the commute, I just start earlier and I end later in the day. I have to be aware of walk away from the computer.
Yeah.
Have it in a place where you can see it or shut it off. So I've gotten in the mindset of working from home. Everyone's getting the job done. It's amazing how quickly everyone was sent home, and we're still just successful. We're still getting projects done. We're still completing things. We're still supporting people. So just, I think with the commute, because I had that, I like working from home. I can wear a workout outfit and I can go get a 30-minute workout in the middle of the day without, going to the gym, try to shower and be presentable and back in a dress, back to work.
Right.
I can just go do that and to feel good about it. So I have that balance a little bit. So the one thing I do miss, though, is the collaboration with my teammates. As you well know, everybody in North America Reading office, all of us were there. So your service desk, your IT fulfillment, networking, hosting, application development, application support. So you have all of us in this real big room and you have that back and forth and, that's fun. And, it's also, hey, what'd you just say? Oh, I know how to do that. Or can you show me how to do that? You have that collaboration as well as your end users that you're supporting. Some of them are in that office. It's not right. Everybody's remote. And sometimes it's just easier. Someone's chatting you. Let me come over and look at what you're doing. And it's really easy to fix something that way. So I miss, that as well. It's like building relationships at work. I still have them, but, I miss that day-to-day interaction.
Yeah, me too. And I was sort of in the same boat, right? They said, we can work 2 days from home before the COVID thing. And that was just enough for me to sort of break the cycle, right? Mm-hmm. So, it was enough that you got to see your people and have lunch and, do your thing. And for any of you that are sort of close to Wyomissing, because that's where Heidi and I work out of, the Wyomissing Farmers Market Thursday, Friday, Saturday is phenomenal. Anyway, that's my plug.
I have not had sushi for a year.
See, there
I went with 3 people from work. Every Friday we went for sushi.
There you go. Look at that. And every Thursday or Friday, Gene and I, or Dan from my team and I went over and had Fisher's Barbecue at the farmers market, and it was glorious.
Yeah, so you miss that kind of stuff.
I do. I miss it, and I miss I miss the camaraderie. I miss walking through the building. I miss that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think the 2 days a week from home and the 3 days in was just enough. I could probably even do like 3 days from home and then 2 days in the office.
I think the same.
I could swing that.
Yeah.
This, being at home all the time, it was nice in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Again, you're saving gas. You're getting on calls in your sweats. That's no problem. It's the other pieces that you're sort of missing. And it's like, all right, well, this, I'm getting bored with this now. Let's change it up. And my habit has been, or my routine has been completely blown up. Blown to smithereens.
Yes.
And I'm ready to have my old routine back. But I think a lot of people feel like the same way we do as far as the home versus the office, and and there was some people that work from home almost exclusively, and it's like, oh, I don't know if I could do that. Like it's both a blessing and a curse being 10 feet from the room you work in, right? So it's a different kind of feel. But I think most people, at least me, are ready to go back to the office and sort of get in that 2 to 3 day week groove and get back to business sort of thing. Not that we are not in business now, but it's a different vibe.
It is a different vibe. And I mean, it's your social, like you said, you're working hard, but you have that laugh. And, I talked about my vocabulary. I know you had to hear it sit rows away from me. And people just accepted me for
That's
it.
true.
I don't know. Like, so
That's true.
I get something a little stressed out there. It's the fun. It's the constant laughing, even though you're stressed and you have deadlines and everything going on and 50 different people coming at you. It was fun.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
that's the part I missed.
I agree. Yeah, I was always like, "Oh, Heidi's yelling again. I didn't piss her off. Did you piss her off? No, not me." It's like, off limits.
It's
No,
true.
just
It's
kidding.
true.
It's like, man, she has a very robust vocabulary. That lady, Jesus.
Learning from my IT manager.
That's right. That's right. So that sort of brings me to the next topic here. Do you? We've both worked in small versus big companies. Not that you necessarily have a favorite or a preference. Maybe you do. When I say, what do you like, small versus big companies? It's not really comparing apples and apples. It's more of an apples and oranges sort of thing because there's different challenges and different structures. But do you have a preference over the other? Do you see a pro versus a con in either arena? Or
I think there's pros and cons in both. We definitely touched on, and depending on who you are, it might be a pro or a con. In a smaller company, you get your hands in everything. Like you said, you're jack of all trades, master of none. You don't have that, you might have some specialties, but you can't possibly become an expert in everything, but you get your hands in everything. You know it, you have the knowledge. So it is helpful in that way to also, what direction do you want to go if you're not sure? Because IT is so vast in what you can possibly do, from security to networking to hosting to fixing hardware to setting up laptops, working with Active Directory, doing web development, application support. I mean, it's endless anymore. The directions you can go. So I think that small company is nice that has processes in place so you can get a feel for what you really like if you don't know what direction, you want that. And I mean, I still remember, because we didn't have the remote tools to get into people's computer while they're sitting at their desk, even if it's 10 feet away, they don't walk over to people. So I did miss that, though. I mean, I learned so much about people going to their desk and looking at their pictures as I'm working on their computer or application. It's just like, oh, I didn't realize that was your daughter.
Right. Or you have kids or hey, cute dog.
And you get to know people that way, which is nice at the smaller company. The advantage of a large corporation is the opportunities. You do have the opportunity to become an expert in a certain area and grow in that area. You normally have more training and development opportunities, go to these bigger conferences and software shows and networking, to learn more about your up and coming, what's the direction of your field. You have those opportunities. And so your salary is better opportunity in a large corporation versus a smaller company. I think I'm lucky as far as relationship building, because the people I support, a lot of the people that I support are in that corporate office where I'm at. Whereas so much anymore, everyone's at 150 other locations that you have to remote into, and you don't have that face-to-face. So I still have that being in a larger corporation, which, you don't with every field. Doesn't necessarily have that.
Yeah, I struggle with that as well. And to be honest with you, I wish there was 150 sites. We're close to 400 now, right? So
yes.
I wish. But no, you're right. I don't. Me personally, and my team, and this goes for Ben and his squad, and hosting, and Dan, even Dan on the desk side, right? They're supporting all these users all over God's creation, and it's hard to put a name of the face, right? So you sort of get to know some of these people because you work with them on a project, or you work with them over a period of time, and you get a name of the face, and every now and then. But like the one-off people that you help, and close the ticket, it's hard to build that bridge, or hard to sort of complete that circle, because you're not that they're just a ticket queue to you, but you help them one time and they may not have an issue for another year. And
exactly.
Like, you don't have that. And that's tough too. Cause as IT people, we want to, that's our nature to help, right? We want to help people, and we want to get, to wherever our road is going to lead us, or wherever the finish line is. So, and we want to do it the quickest way, right? So,
yes, because there's somebody else that needs help.
Exactly. So you may talk to somebody, for a day or two. It might be an easy layup,
Mm-hmm.
or you may talk to somebody. In my case, in my team's case, you may talk to somebody for a month or two while you try
Mm-hmm.
to, find a rabbit
Sure.
in a rabbit hole. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to sort of put together these names with faces and things of that nature because you don't talk to them very often, and you're just trying to get to as many people as possible
Mm-hmm.
to help them, whether that's right or wrong. That's the nature of the business that we're in.
It is, and I mean that it's another thing with corporate. You have statistics and measurements and that you have to abide by. So, like if you're on the service desk, you have to complete a call in a certain amount of minutes, whether it's a phone
Yep.
call, and if you don't know, then pass it on. And whereas in the smaller company, you are that person working it from end to end. So
Yeah.
I think you're giving a better customer service doing that because when you are learning, it's not just, well, can't figure that out in 10 minutes, so I'm not allowed to look at that anymore. Whereas
Right.
if you were given that opportunity or could work with, somebody else that already knows that, hey, this is how you do that. And that's how you train people. And I think that we lose some of that when we have all these metrics that you have to abide by because, hey, if I had 5 more minutes, maybe I could have figured it out or I could have asked someone and I could have learned, wow, that's in front of me. So I think that's a difference too with the pro and con. You have the ability to learn more, have that customer service, build those relationships. I mean, you in a smaller company, everybody, everyone's name.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a pro with a smaller company
Mhm.
because you're working directly with, in some instances you're working directly with an owner or a co-owner,
Yes.
right? You're going right to the top, and
Mhm.
our CEO is one of the better ones that I've worked for as far as his communication and things of that nature. So
Absolutely.
I'm happy for that. So
Yeah.
a shout out to him. But in smaller places, you may work directly with, like I said, a co-owner or an owner,
Mhm.
and sort of mold that business plan and mold the IT plan into, hey, this is what our roadmap looks like for the next, 3 years or whatever. It's a very different feel, and obviously corporate has more layers to them, right? So there's more people to get to, or I shouldn't say more people to get through, but more people in the room, right, with
Yes.
voices. So it's a again, it's a team effort, and everyone sort of has to have the same vision. If you have 10 people and they're going 10 different
Mhm.
directions, you really don't get anywhere. You're just kind of spinning
You're
your
spinning
wheels,
your wheels.
and that process or that vision takes even longer. And
Mhm.
as you know, IT moves so fast, you got to move with it, or else you're going to be falling behind. There's no standing still.
Well, and with that said, I mean, I see that in especially there's new software or new processes. You have so many people involved because it affects so many different departments that I think it does take long. It's like, hey, we want this in by, January 2021, and you didn't pick a vendor until a month before that and you're never
Yeah,
changing anything else. Well, it took that long because we didn't agree. We all had different bridges, that we wanted to cross. We all had different aspects that how it's going to benefit us or our teams or our processes. And I think it just takes a whole lot longer. I see that we have a go live date and we don't even have a product picked yet. I think there's a lot of that because there's so many more people at the table. There's a lot more voices to be heard and a lot more opinions and directions and to
sure.
make everybody happy because it's a
To
new
please
product
everybody. Yeah.
and you're looking for it to make efficiencies for the company as we continue to grow.
No, I agree with that. Like I said, the more people in the room, it's better from an ideals perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a double-edged sword because now everyone's got to agree.
Yeah.
And I think that can be a long bridge to cross depending on who you have in the room or who's some stakeholders, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so that's sort of that's a whole nother discussion in
That's
itself,
politics.
right? yeah, exactly. Which we have not covered yet, which we will. But no, I agree. But so that being said, with people in the right rooms and stakeholders and titles and things of that nature, do titles mean anything to you? I think in the last couple of years, titles have sort of fallen off when
Mm-hmm.
this idea, or I shouldn't say idea, in this sort of soup of culture and ideas and bringing different people and walks of life to the table, having a voice, etc., etc. Does the title lose some of its luster today than maybe 20, 30 years ago? Like being a CEO 30 years ago was like, oh man, that guy's a CEO. Look at him driving his Porsche. Like today, it's like, all right, well, he's a director of, or he's a VP of applications. Look, he's got the same Porsche, that kind of thing. So are titles lost in today, or like, do they mean something to you, or is it just a sort of status that tries to separate people?
Two things on titles. One, it seems like in the last 5 years, titles are ridiculous. Just like you asked me, you're like, what do you do? This is your title, but what do you do? Like you used to know, oh, he's VP of operations, VP of marketing. You used to know what people did by looking at their titles. Now it's just like, I don't know what they do. So in that aspect, titles don't mean much to me. On another aspect, it's respect for your coworkers, no matter what their title is and what they do. Yeah, can the CEO or the CIO get rid of me tomorrow? Absolutely. Can somebody working for me get rid of me tomorrow? No. So just overall, in general, you work with every level of people. And when I say level, there's work levels. So, but you work with every different department, or I do, and it's why I like being application support. I work with all different people, whether they're managers, you're the data entry, you're getting the day-to-day done, you're a director, you're a C-level executive, you're a VP. You have to have respect when dealing with anybody, no matter who they are. You have to be nice. You have to be respectful. Yeah, will you build relationships and know who, you can joke around with, and have a different rapport with? Absolutely. But, you just have to remember that you're not in school, you're in a business. You owe everybody, the respect, listen to them, provide your feedback and everything. So as far as titles and that aspect, they don't mean anything to me, because you need to build your relationships no matter who the person is, and be respectful and nice along the way.
I agree with that. I think you're right. I think the last 5, 7, maybe even 10 years, something like that, titles have just gotten just crazy. But
I'm just like, I don't know what you do.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Okay. But yeah, I think there's something to be said about titles versus actual leaders, if that makes sense. So I think there's a difference between someone with the title and then the leader that has people working for them, and not in the sense of for them as in, cracking the whip sort of thing. Sure. So yeah. Where I'm at in my position now, team lead, I guess you want to call it. That's what they do call it. Yeah. And I try to lead by example. I'm responsible for service X. I don't necessarily have people reporting to me, but I think we work together. We work well together as a team. And it's this weird thing of, how do you lead and get the most out of people without cracking the whip when you don't have to? Like, if I feel like you get more bees with honey than you do with vinegar, sort of thing. And I feel like that's a cliche.
It's true.
I'm sorry for the cliche, but it's true. It's why would I want to roll into a room and pound my fist on the table and say, I belong here because I'm XYZ, instead of rolling in there and being like, look, I have this idea, blah, 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 blah. And let your ideas and your actions speak for themselves, rather than some arbitrary title that somebody throws on you. I feel like that's it's a weird thing to okay, well, I'm a VP of XYZ. Historically, I've been able to do this, or I'm expected to do this, and they do that because it's just, again, it's what they know. It's the way we've always done it, and it's sort of. I feel like if you are inclusive to people and take people into consideration as far as where they're coming from, and sort of meet them halfway in the middle, and not just have them come all the way to you in a working aspect, if that makes sense. You're going to get more out of your people that way if you meet them halfway, at least for me.
No, absolutely. And I agree. It's lead by example. Like I said, I believe in working hard, getting the job done, not being lazy. So if I'm leading by example, I'm showing, this is the right way, not the only way.
Yep.
But, there are some processes we have that we have to follow as a company. and hey, here's the training, and let's have a refresher training so we're all on the same page. And then, along with that, you have team meetings and you throw ideas around, or hey, I've been working on this problem and I'm at a loss, and you have the other team members there to back you up. And like I said, there's so many different departments and projects going on. And I recently, I said this, I'm like, there's 3 different streams, different departments within IT, and they all have their own agenda. It's their job. They're all doing their job.
Right.
They said, but what we need to realize here is the business. I said, we all have the same end goal, to have a stable and efficient system for our end users to use that's scalable. And I'm like, but we're working at 3 different directions when we all need to be working in the same direction, because we all want the same thing to happen. Yep. But because of the bigger corporation, I think that's another con, that, instead of 6 people all working on the same thing and helping each other, they're going in different directions just because they're all being led by different leaders and different streams and what their specific job is. That I think that gets lost a little bit as well, where you don't have as much collaboration as you do in smaller companies.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. There's a fine line with having people work for you and working with them, rather than just, hey, being part of a mindless, ticket queue sort of thing, and just, metrics and, numbers and what they can tell their bosses that they did for that month. So it's
also, something I've noticed even when I started at this company. Now we've grown so much just in the last 9 years since I started here, but there was still that mindset of, hey, go to this person because that's what she does. Go to this person because that's what he does. Oh, well, she's off, so nobody else can do that. And it was really just one person in a specific department that did one job. And that took a long time to change over the years here. Yeah. So that I see that's big, because then you lose that person for whatever reason. They retire, they go and they go to another job. You lose that skill, you lose all that knowledge. So another thing being part of a team, I think, is the constant cross training. Hey, if you want to hoard everything and keep everything because you want all the knowledge, that's not going to help you in the long run. No. You can't take that day off. You can't take that vacation. You're going to be constantly, on call.
Ugh. No, thank you.
No, it's worked when you're a team and you can say, hey, this error just happened. Let's train everybody, or let's do documentation, and we have it. And cross training is very important in a team setting.
I agree. I think, and the old adage is, hey, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, exactly. You guys are up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. By the way, reference to Schitt's Creek, the show. My wife loves it, so if you haven't seen it, it's very good. So go do your thing. So, yeah, it's very good. No, I think you're spot on. I think there has to be some sort of cross training involved, because you do want people to take a day. Yes. You do want people to enjoy that work-life balance. That, to me, I think the last couple of years is getting in the IT world, because that's the space we're in, right? But I think that idea of work-life balance is getting smaller and smaller. Yeah, for various reasons. You have that sort of power to sort of control that in that aspect, and that's sharing knowledge with others and with your teammates to make sure you can get a week at the beach or a long weekend in wherever. So I think that's a good thing. I think people need to, especially now, like in the last year or so with the whole COVID thing, like the mental, people's mental states are not where they used to be, and you need that peace of mind to get up and walk away. Absolutely. You need that peace to get up and say, you know what, I'm going for a walk around the development. I'll see you in an hour, sort of thing. Like it's such a larger part of your day, and like being chained to the desk and whatnot, and sort of head down working and whatnot. It has a time and place for it, but you got to get up from it, and and the time that you're given to get away from the desk. Whether, vacation days or whatever. And in our case, we get 2 floating holidays as well. So, take those. Those are your days. You've earned them, right? So make sure you schedule them and get them out there and do your thing. So that work-life balance is so important. But yet I see, more and more guys not taking the full time that they're owed, and it eats you up if it lets you, if you let it.
I see it a lot, and I mean the work-life balance for, I think especially for IT, and it's not just IT. I think it's in general.
It's a lot of places,
But it changed with the smartphone.
Yeah,
it truly.
It's a great point.
There was twofold. There two things happened simultaneously. So those that are old enough, you and I.
What are you trying to say, Heidi?
There was a recession, and it was hard to get a job. So, and there were so many people being let go and laid off, and you had to do more with less. And that was the motto for so long. And you were afraid to lose your job, so you did the more with less. And you kept doing that and doing that. Then it's like, well, here's the smartphone. You should answer me 24/7. That is the mentality today. And I think that's a little bit of that whole work-life balance burnout. I gave you a smartphone, so you should always be looking at your email, your chats, your phone, your phone calls. And I think that was a big turning point, and sort of, went hand in hand. And just never reversed itself.
No, I agree. I think the smartphone, sort of, has that tiny computer wherever we go, right? It fits in our pocket, and that's a double-edged sword. Like I remember plenty of times going to the beach and pulling it just by habit. Like I didn't even mean to. It's just by habit. You pull it out of your pocket, and it's like, oh shit, I got 10 emails. Like, all right, let me just check one. And it's like, no, like put the notifications on silent. It'll be there whenever you get back. And if it was that important, they would have went to someone else by now. By the time you get back, it's already fixed. So don't even come to me with that nonsense. I'll be like Dikembe, Mutombo, just swatting that thing out of the air. Get out of here with that, smartphone nonsense. But it's a great point, and we talked about it earlier on another episode with burnout, and it's real, and here's just another example, right? Heidi brings it up. It's real. It exists, especially in the last year with everybody sort of being cooped up and not being able to go XYZ and all this other stuff. So it's important. You gotta take the time that's owed to you. And it's the smartphone. I use my personal one for work as well, so I just have my work phone. I actually do have a work phone. It sits on my desk at work, and the number is just forwarded to my personal one. So I'm not carrying two phones, but it's the work emails on the personal phone. It's like you really got when you take that day or take the week or whatever you do wherever you go, you got to turn the notifications off, or else you're like, it's like this weird pre-program that you have to look at it every 10 minutes, and you're like, oh my God, like I forgot to tell so-and-so XYZ. And it's like, you know what? They'll figure it out. Let them go. Like, get them outside their box for once,
Yes, which goes hand in hand with the training, and there's other people that can do what you do.
That's right. That's right. The building is still standing when you come back. So be aware of that, that kind of thing. So I think that's it. Heidi, we've been going quite a bit, and obviously we're gonna be respectful of people's time, and roughly an hour, give or take. Obviously we had some great conversation here. So thank you very much for coming on and doing your thing. And this was really cool. We will definitely do this again. Dean has to be part of this conversation, because I'll tell you, like, Dean would have loved this conversation. I'll tell you that right now. So we'll do it again. But thanks to Heidi for coming on and kind of explaining her portion of the IT world, how big or how small. So this is cool. So Heidi, maybe you and I, when we get back to working, we can go to the farmer's market and get some barbecue.
Sounds fantastic to me, and I appreciate you inviting me on the show.
Absolutely. No, anytime. There's always a seat for you here, so it's all good. The barbecue is calling our name, and I'll even pay. So it's on record that I'm paying for barbecue next time. So
fabulous.
It's all good. Exactly. So again, thanks Heidi for joining. This is really cool. I appreciate your insight, and you coming and taking a couple minutes to chat with us. So I want to thank everybody for joining this week to listen to us talk and babble and everything in between. So the obligatory stuff I have to say at the end of the show to push our social media. Make sure you visit our website, so you want to be in it.buzzsprout.com. That's where the show is actually hosted, or you can get it from wherever you get your podcasts, right? So Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, plain old RSS feed. We're there too. So literally anywhere you get your podcast, we are there. So you make sure you never miss a show. And when it comes to iTunes, if you could throw us a rating, that would be awesome. That fools with the algorithms and all the smart people at Apple. It gets us in the fresh and new section. So more eyes, the more listens. So that would be cool. Or you can simply tell a friend. So word of mouth is just as good these days, right, Heidi?
Absolutely.
And anything else, right? So that would help us out too. So we have a Twitter and an Instagram. They're both at So You Want to Be an IT. Facebook.com So You Want to Be / So You Want to Be an IT. And then also we have a Discord server that we spun up to chat directly with you guys. So that's cool. Heidi, do you know what Discord is?
I do not.
Familiar with that at all? Okay, so it's basically just it's a chat application, right? So it's are you familiar with Slack?
No.
That's sort of what that is. So, oh man,
I don't tweet.
So it's basically a chat app that it's just a general chat room sort of thing, and you can topics are split into what they call channels, and then you put your particular whatever you want to talk about into that particular channel. So it keeps it organized, it keeps it structured in that manner, and things of that nature. So Discord and Slack are sort of in the same arena sort of thing. So we went with Discord this time. So you folks that are interested in the Discord server and chatting with us, which we're pretty active on, the invite is in the show notes of the podcast here. So again, thanks Heidi, this was awesome. We will have you back next time, and we'll see you next time. Later.
Is there anybody there?